Good evening, Ohio. James Ernest and Mark Fightmaster of UC Bearcats on the Prowl, part of the Grueling Truth Radio Network. We're here to discuss all the great things that are going on in UC football and the not-so-great things that are going on in UC basketball. So, Mark, thank you for joining us.
No problem, James. Thanks, man.
So, what have the Bearcats been up to?
I'll tell you what, I'd like to get the bad news out of the way first, James. Why don't we talk about basketball? Just because the football has some positives. Man, it was a rough stretch. It's been a rough stretch for the Bearcats of late, man. It just compounded tonight with a 5-point loss to UCF. They lost to Georgia over the weekend, got stomped pretty good, and last week they lost to South Florida. Quite honestly, they should have won 2 of the 3 games. If they're the team that we think they are. Georgia, I can understand. You're at Georgia. Might be kind of a tough game, but losing to Central Florida, South Florida, that can't happen. That can't happen. So, and I think, James, what's just disappointing is the team's been kind of listless.
Exactly.
No emotion.
And they're on a 4-game losing streak. That's just, like you said, a couple of the games you kind of understand. You understand the Tennessee one. You understand the Georgia, the USF and UCF. You're kind of scratching your head on those.
Yeah. Like Tennessee, they're ranked. I can handle that. Georgia, they're not ranked, but I think they're on the cusp. I can handle that because it's there. And you're traveling to play them. But, man, Central Florida and South Florida, you can't – this team's not going to be taken seriously in the American Athletic Conference losing like that. They can't be seen as a serious contender to the throne. Obviously, Houston's the cream of the crop in basketball in the AAC. But, UC has always been right up there. And not this year, man. Not this year.
Well, the good news is they have plenty of time to work on it and get their act together because they don't have another game till January 2nd.
Yeah, and man, I tell you what, they got to come together and do something because right now the only way this team will make the tournament, if there is a tournament, is by winning the conference tournament. By winning the AAC tournament, or they have to do that because you can't have 2 losses the way they do to conference teams, and then 2 losses. Well, they got 3 losses outside of conference. They're 2-5. They can't lose another game if they want to even be considered. So it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough.
So you mean that they want to be considered for the NIT?
That's where we're headed, brother. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, that's the direction. Yeah, I was going to say that is the new goal. Is hey, maybe we'll make it to the NIT this year if we're lucky.
We got to reshift our focus. We got to reshift.
Yeah.
And again, started off slow last year as well. Okay, but last year was a different year. This year everything counts just a little bit more because you don't know what's happening. You don't know when you're going to get shut down. You don't know if you're going to play a tournament. So, this is not a good start for the boys of Brannon up there in Clifton.
Definitely. So they're not doing so hot. But on the bright side now, hopefully we'll get our revenge against Georgia coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the big news, obviously, is UC is playing in a New Year's Day bowl. Now, I guess the bad news to it is they're playing Georgia in the Peach Bowl. So, but I think it's okay. It'll be fun to watch. Those who have trumpeted UC football all season will now get a chance to see them play one of the teams that they felt they should have been ranked ahead of, but ultimately weren't, I believe. Wasn't Georgia 8 and UC 9?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. But lost in that, James, is the fact that UC got 0 respect from the voters. Florida, 3 losses ahead of UC. Texas A&M ahead of UC, and who's Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida. It's all SEC teams. It's all SEC teams. I got to tell you, last weekend, when Notre Dame got beat the way Notre Dame got beat, I honestly thought that Cincinnati had a shot at that fourth spot. And, maybe it's because I'm a bit of a homer, but I honestly thought they had a shot because Notre Dame got smacked. And so you'd think that would drop them down. But, there's a situation, gosh, James, when did we talk about this? We may have talked about this back end of October, with what happened with Clemson and Notre Dame beating them when they didn't have Trevor Lawrence, and then Clemson smacking when they did have Trevor Lawrence, and how it all was going to work out. And unfortunately, UC got the short end of the stick. And then on top of that, they got disrespected. So, But, hey, they took care of business. They beat Tulsa 27-24. It was a great game, but they needed to beat them more, I guess. I don't know.
They did. They needed to beat them more. Not that would have actually gotten them anything anyway, even if they would have beat them more, but they needed to. Definitely, like in the fourth quarter, the last three drives, they went for it on fourth, which they were about to get it, and they slipped and fell. Then the next drive, they got the field goal blocked, and then they eventually did get the field goal to win the game. So it was way too close.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, a lot of things happened right there at the end for them because it was 4th and 2, if you remember, with a minute and a half to go, and they were lining up to kick the field goal. And then Tulsa jumped for like the 500th time that night and gave them the first down, and they could run the clock down to no time left. Because, and I'm not saying UC's defense is bad, but they did not do a great job late in the game against Tulsa. Tulsa kind of figured things out. Maybe
they got back into the game.
Ties it up. Maybe Tulsa goes down, ties it up. Maybe they get a touchdown. So things worked out in their favor. The stars kind of aligned,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the weird thing about the game, that it just – now, of course, a lot of people aren't bringing up is the fact that how bad the weather was.
Yeah, it was nasty out there, man. It was nasty. It was a rough night, that cold rain. It was ugly. And the Bearcats were able to handle it, so –
Exactly. They fought through. They, got through the adversity. It wasn't, a nice weather game. It wasn't a nice atmosphere to play football. So now, don't get me wrong, both teams had to deal with it. But, a lot of times when there's a team that's supposed to win the game, the other team, it gives them a chance to get back into it.
Yeah, and it was a good football game. It was a really good football game. It showcased what UC can do. The offense was solid. The defense was solid. Now we're going to get to see all of those of us that have been saying, give UC a chance, give UC a chance. Well, now they're going to have a chance. This reminds me of back when Tony Pike was the QB, and we went to the Sugar Bowl and played against Virginia Tech, if you remember that, or no, Florida. I think we played Florida in the Sugar Bowl.
Florida.
And then we played Virginia Tech the next year, I think. And it didn't go well against Florida, So hopefully it will go better this year against Georgia. And quite honestly, James, I really think it can. I think this UC defense brings a bit of an attitude with it. And I think the defensive coordinator, and I always forget his name, is going to have a little bit of proof. I always want to say Marcus Freeman, I think he's going to have a little bit to prove, and I think that they could go out there and give Georgia all that they can handle. UC has speed, but what concerns me, James, is they don't have that SEC speed.
Yeah.
So if you remember back when 2014 when Ohio State beat Alabama in the national champion, or not in the national championship game, but to go to the national championship game. The one thing I remember from that game is how much faster Ohio State looked than Alabama. Ezekiel Elliott was running away from people. That's what we kind of need. That's what UC needs to compete with the big boys. I guess we're going to see what we got.
Yeah, that does bring up a good question. Did they ever say if Dokes is okay? Because he didn't end up playing the majority of the second half.
I have not seen an injury report, so I do not know. I'm sure that they're going to stay tight-lipped about it now. So Georgia can't say, well, he's hurt, so we can prepare for somebody else. You know, I think they're going to stay tight-lipped about it until they have to say something. So.
Exactly, which is a smart thing to do. There's no reason to go and let the other team see your cards.
Right. I mean, there's some gamesmanship there, but it's also just smart coaching. And you know, I don't want to let this chance go by to praise Luke Fickell and the way he handled the snub from the committee. You know, he said he felt that they were one of the 4 best teams in the country. He felt they deserved to have a chance to play in the playoffs, but they're going to do what they can. You know, and I think that is a very classy move. You wouldn't, if this was, I mean, think about last week, James. Who did we hear from Brian Kelly? I don't know if our guys want to play if parents can't be there. Jimbo Fisher down at Texas A&M. We deserve to be in there, even though Alabama beat us by however many 100 points it was. You know, Dabo Swinney. You know, a 6-win team doesn't deserve to be in there. 6 team only plays 6 games. Something that frustrates me about coaches is when they can't be classy about things. Luke Fickell handled it in a very classy manner, and I got to give Coach props for that.
Definitely. He is a class act 100% of the way. I mean, that's why he is one of the best coaches in college sports, bar none. The thing that kind of bothers me about the game is it's a home game for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia, they could walk to the game probably. You know, I mean, I know Georgia Tech is in the heart of Atlanta there where the Peach Bowl is, but I don't know how close Athens is, but you know, it's not far. They're gonna, if there's people, how many people are allowed to attend? Have you seen?
I have not seen. I'm kind of curious on that. I'll have to look. I just filled out the credential form today, which is weird because I was originally not planning on doing it because I'm not going all the way down to Georgia. But if we want the stats from the game to be sent directly to us, we had to fill it out to the off-site credentials.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Plus, it's never a bad thing to have your name good, in good with the NCAA.
Oh no, man! You know, then when we can finally go back to games, you might be able to get something. Yeah, that's a smart thing to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know that. I know that like the Rose Bowl was supposed to be one of the playoff games, and they had to move it to Texas because they're not allowing anybody to gather at all in California, or at least in Southern California, I think, where the game was. So who knows? Who knows how many people can go to this one? But it was nice seeing fans in Nippert.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, I was going to say, and it was so amazing, like you said, despite the weather, how the fans were into the game and how intense they were.
Dude, you take a bunch of rabid fans, which UC fans are, and you have a great season, but you have that great season and things that people aren't allowed to go to. When they are finally allowed to go, I don't care if it was only 1,500 people. It sounded like the Nip was full, and it was awesome to see some of the students there. I think I saw a Santa suit. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you had the fellow wearing the Santa suit. You had the knuckleheads without the shirts. Yeah, I mean, you just had all the classic college tropes.
Yeah, man. Doesn't it make you appreciate what we had? I mean, the fact that there were crowds. I mean, it was weird. Big Ten game, the Big Ten championship game. I was following on the radio, and this was what was crazy. No Big Ten designations anywhere on the field. It was Indianapolis Colts stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Usually they put the teams in it. But Paul Keels and I always forget his color commentary dude, Jim Lachey, they had to call the game from Columbus while they were watching it.
Oh, wow.
Watching a live feed of the game. And so they got everything a couple seconds before We did, so they could stay, like it was they were actually calling it. But from what I understand, they weren't even allowed in the stadium to call the game.
That is ridiculous.
Tell me about it, man. Tell me about it. And that's what they're doing in a lot of sports. So it's crazy. But again, long story short, or short story long, however you want to say it, it makes us appreciate what we have had and what we have had in the past, and can't wait to get back to it.
Exactly. So on the bright side, they are in a major bowl. They've got a good thing going. They're getting good recruiting classes. Coaches getting the respect. Got players getting invited to the senior bowls. So I mean, it's progressing.
It is, James. It is, and I don't want to let this podcast end without recognizing Weil, the tight end. He was named I believe, third string All-American by Pro Football Focus. That's huge. That is huge. It's giving him that national attention. And when you're competing with the likes of Kyle Pitts down in Florida, to be able to garner some attention that way is massive. It's huge, and that kid's got a bright future.
Definitely. Yeah, I was going to say, they've been doing well with the tight ends the last couple of years, so it's good to see that trend continue.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I even got to go up to the Combine. I was hoping to actually come this last year up there, but unfortunately, being in the Combine or being at the Combine doesn't get you into the Combine. It's kind of a weird setup. Yeah, unless you have ESPN written on you or the NFL Network written on you somewhere, they let you at the front door, but they don't let you in the door.
That sucks, but that's still kind of cool too.
Oh, it was still cool being up there, yeah. But it was just weird. Like they let you at the bench press and a couple of the other events, but they don't. You can't be inside the stadium, so it was just kind of odd.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it'll even be crazier this year.
Yeah, I'll anxiously await your bench press numbers. So
Exactly. Sounds good. But, yeah, it sounds like UC's got some great stuff going on, and it was a heck of a game, and definitely, look forward to discussing more basketball and more about the bowl game next week.
Yep.
Sounds good. So for James Ernest and Mark Fightmaster, this has been UC Bearcats on the Prowl.